Freedom is our birthright, and its fullest expression is liberty and the release of the potentials of the human individual. For our independence is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa. With these quotes from the two shades of the leadership of our independence struggle, Dr. J.B. Danko and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I welcome you to today's Founders Day edition of Press Conference right here on City TV, where we review the major press conferences and engagements in the course of the week under review. My name is Duke Mensah Opoku. In this edition, we begin from government's suspension of the agreement with PDS, that's the concessionaire who is supposed to be distributing power in the energy sector, that's at the distribution chain. Well, on Tuesday night, there was a statement from government suspending the activities for what government called fundamental and material breaches in the agreement. The story has evolved since then. We'll be looking at that right here on press conference. And on Monday, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, was in Parliament to deliver the mid-year budget review. Well, some targets have been revised. Some new tax measures have been announced, others scrapped, and all of that. We will be looking at that right here on press conference with my crack team of journalists. And finally, the latest on the Takoradi kidnapped girls. There was news on Friday as to what has become of investigations going on so far. We'll be looking at how it was even reported and the issues emanating from that. The show is live and interactive via the WhatsApp line 055-058-5832. You can also join us via Facebook and on Twitter. The hashtag is Press Conference. We'll be right back after this break. I'll introduce my guests. I'll delve into the issues. Welcome back. This is Press Conference right here on City TV. Joining me to do the discussions in this edition to my immediate left is Toma Imihere. He is no stranger to the program, has deep understanding of issues in the business sector. He's also editor of Go Street Business. So welcome, Toma.
Thank you, Duke.
Next to him is also another accomplished business journalist, Elorm Desewu. He's editor of the Economy Times. So welcome, Elorm.
Thank you, Duke.
And our own in-house person, editor of citybusinessnews.com, Richard Ni Annerquaye Abbey, second time in 2 weeks. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Duke.
Yeah, so we'll begin with the matters surrounding the power distribution services, PDS. There was a statement on Tuesday night, deep into the night. There was a statement coming in from the Minister of Information, indicating that government has suspended the agreement which made PDS the power distribution services, the power distributor taking over from ECG, and that ECG was to go back to its work as the distributor of power in that sector. We would take excerpts of a press conference that was held later on in the week after that statement, which explained the issues and said that government had actually constituted a team that was going on to do further deliberations and look into the issues and what caused what many are calling a potential fraudulent activity. So we'll take excerpts of that now.
Full-scale inquiry into the detected breaches has commenced and is expected to be completed within 30 days. The team conducting the inquiry comprises insurance investigation experts, officials of the Energy and Finance Ministries, and officials of the ECG and MEDA as well. The inquiry will determine the nature of the breach and advise on the suggested next steps. By Tuesday, the team is expected in Doha, Qatar, as part of this inquiry. All interested parties are cooperating with the inquiry at this stage. Number two, a second team has been tasked to continue engagement with the American government through its agency, the Millennium Challenge Corporation. This engagement is about the possible next steps after the inquiry. It's also about channels for sharing information as part of this inquiry. The team is expected to also be in the United States of America, possibly next week, as part of their engagement. Number three, final efforts to ensure a smooth transition between ECG and PDS officials are proceeding without incident as at this stage.
So that's Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah at that press conference. But well, the minority has other ideas. They also held a press conference that very day to put the issues in their own perspective, especially as the concession agreement, deliberations, and even the contract agreement and things like that began under the Mahama administration.
To ensure efficient and sustainable delivery of power, and as a matter of urgency, we insist on the following 5-point demands. 1, like we said, terminate the concession agreement with immediate effect. 2, identify, and not only identify, but go ahead to prosecute those responsible for this fraudulent guarantee, as was confirmed by no less a person than the Minister of Energy. And not just identify and prosecute those in charge of this fraudulent guarantee, we must also identify, smoke out, and prosecute all government officials who collaborated in this scandal as far as the guarantee and the concession is concerned. 3, ensure full refund of monies and interest thereof collected by PDS during this 5-month period as a result of this fraudulent activity. 4, dissolve the current ECG board and appoint a competent non-partisan board that has the capacity to ensure that ECG continues to serve the people of Ghana in a much more effective manner. 5, restructure the current ECG management and ensure that they perform in an efficient and effective manner.
John Jinapor is Member of Parliament for Yapekuso, former Deputy Power Minister, and he's demonstrated a clear understanding of some of the issues so far, but the crux of the issues that they are calling for a termination. Let me come to the studio now, begin with you, Toma. Government says they are going to further engage. Minority says terminate the agreement. What's your own analysis of the issues that have come up so far with this PDS agreement?
Okay, Duke, I think we are mixing up, people are beginning to mix up two different issues here.
Okay.
One is this, the purported or alleged fraud concerning this concession agreement by the reinsurers, all right, whereby a guarantee was given, they claim that a guarantee was given by an unauthorized person,
okay,
all right, which is a very, very crucial issue, okay. Then the second issue is about whether this means we should go back to where we were before without a concession and go back to using ECG, or whether we should now go back to the bidding process for the concession, which is part of a wider energy compact we have with the American government. Yeah. So let's not mix up those two things, because right now, that's what the minority seems to be doing. We're talking about, they have the impression apparently that we are talking about, okay, let's terminate this agreement and abandon the entire structure. All right, and that is where I think we need to make a decision on this first of all. My big worry about that is that we've come a long way in terms of this energy restructuring program, and this concession is just one part of it at the retail end of the energy value chain.
But that seems to be the most crucial aspect of restructuring.
For we the consumers, yes, for we the consumer it is, because these are the people who interface directly with us. But you see, the chain goes all the way back to generation,
yes,
and transmission and everything. So I don't know what the effect would be of restructuring the retail side. I don't know how it will affect the entire holistic program. We need to make a decision on, are we now saying that because somebody did fraud concerning a guarantee by reinsurers, that now means that the entire structure or the entire restructuring of the retail end of our energy supply chain should now, we should go back to where we were before. Some people would tell you that it's equivalent to throwing out the baby with the bathwater. All right? So, I mean, it's not for me to say, but I think we need to look at this thing very, very carefully. Because the problem that has occurred here is not necessarily a problem with the new structure that was being brought in. It's a matter of a fraud within the implementation of that structure. The other side of the point, the other side too, is that the pro-ECG lobbyists are now back center stage insisting that the whole thing was wrong in the first place. And they do have some points which, I mean, but I don't know that that's not going back into time, going back again to things, ground we have gone over before. But I think we need to be very clear about distinguishing between the two things.
Okay.
All right? We need to be very clear about distinguishing the two things. So government needs to decide on, I mean, as for the fraud itself, it's strictly a legal issue, which I expect the investigations to unravel what happened. But then we need to make a decision about whether we are simply going to go back to the bidding process again and continue with the concession arrangement, or whether we are going to cancel the concession arrangement altogether, which does not involve, as what I know is about, restructuring the ECG's board and the management and that. Because right now, it sounds like ECG is the interim retailer. A full decision has not been made about whether to stay now with ECG or simply go back to the bidding process and take probably the second best bid and enter a concession agreement with them.
Let me attempt to break down some of the issues. For people who have been following, for a lot of people, what we've seen what we've heard is a lot of jargons and technicalities and people
reinsurance, demand guarantees, fundamental breaches.
I mean, these
too much technical terminology that confuses the ordinary mind.
What we do that we somehow, I mean, kind of leave people behind, and sometimes we need to carry people up, carry people along for them to understand what the issues are. So we are talking about the Compact 2. So the Compact 2 is what we had, the Compact 1, the N1, and some other projects. And the Compact 2 is to turn around ECG to make it profitable. And the Compact 2 basically tells us that, look, ECG has problems. And the problems they have is technical, which has to do with the losses they make and commercial losses and all those things. And then the second one is financial, meaning that they need money to turn around some of these things. So
the Americans are giving us a little over 400 million.
A little over 400 million. So what they are saying is, okay, we are going to give you
another 500 million.
We are going to give you this money. What you have to do as a country, get another company that has the technical expertise. Just say they have, they know how to do some of these things.
And investable funds.
And then also they have money. And when they have money, we are talking about then there's a second part of which means that we need local partnership. So then the Compact, the MCC said, okay, or MIDA said that we need local players. So then people bidded, and then they got local players or local partnership to do some of these things. And Morocco, they also they had some Ghanaian coming together to own some shares. So
49%.
So they have to raise some money to show that, yes, when it comes to the technical aspect, Morocco, let's say for instance, can handle it, and we the locals, we can put in the money to turn around some of these things. So for you to show that you have the money, that's where the guarantee will come in. So somebody would have to certify, this is the money I have. So somebody would have to, approve or verify, and that's where the reinsurance and all those things came in. So the
reinsurance is like some sort of a backup in case something goes wrong.
So reinsurance is more or less like a guarantee. So, or let me say a guarantor. Somebody has to.
No, it's just like you are sharing the risk.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
so I'm trying to.
It was also a guarantee against PDS giving government certain amount of money from what was being generated. There was a fixed amount that was supposed to be paid. There was a formula for.
So essentially, what they are saying is, so we are going to give our assets to PDS. So if something goes bad, you are reinsuring and you have to take care of the liability. So, essentially, that's what we are looking at. And what happened was, according to what Information Ministry or the Financial Minister,
not only the Energy Minister also spoke also in the course of the week.
So they are saying that whoever issued that guarantee or signed that letter, that reinsurance letter from Qatar, did not have the capacity to do that. That's my understanding.
That's where I get much.
No, so
because I'll be coming to you on the issue of due diligence, because that's also one key issue that a lot have been coming up, and you'll be wrapping up at that point.
So when we look at the reinsurance and who guaranteed and whether the person has the capacity or not, for me, I think that yes, the investigations are going to unearth some of these things, but it's fundamental that we need to understand. So if the person who signed that guarantee did not have that capacity, on what basis was a company paid? Are you getting me?
Yeah.
Because assuming I'm paying for work done, and you are telling me the person who signed it don't have the guarantee, did you take money? And from what we have we've been told and what we understand happened, some of these transactions would have to go to the Bank of Ghana, because you can't just wake up one day and say, I'm sending monies to a certain company. All these things were done. So there were chains of development that we can easily follow. So we need to understand some of these things. And I could, like the minister said, we need the investigation would show some of these things. But I am saying this to be some sort of, I don't want to say, there's a political power play somewhere along the line.
Which in my view is not good anyway, because
Yes, of course. That's what is killing the company.
Assuming I'm not trying to defend PDS, I'm not trying to defend anybody, but we are looking at, for we to say it is fraud, it means that for, let's say PDS did not pay the right amount for the guarantee that they procured. If the guarantee should cost 30 million and I pay 30 million and I got it, and then you come and tell me it's fraud, I mean, with what motive? Because the thing is costing the original. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I am thinking that all these investigations would unearth some of the facts that we are missing out. And then fundamentally, we also...
Instead of going straight away to terminate the agreement.
I don't think we should
terminate.
I mean, we should take that
go the
hasty
route of
decision.
terminating.
And because, look, these negotiations and everything started way back. And it's a whole process, like Toma was saying. It's a whole gamut of process. And if we terminate it, it means, are we going back to the drawing board? I think that, personally, I look at the process that Miracle came on top. I don't think it was competitive enough, because at the end of the day, two companies were left and one was disqualified. So automatically
some others pulled out when the mix changed from 80 to 20 to 51.
You would say it wasn't that competitive, because when we want the best for the country, you would expect that people will show their prowess and they will pick the best. But if you have two companies and one was disqualified and one emerges winner, you would say. But I mean, I think that we've gone beyond that. And we need to have a full understanding, have the full access to the facts, so we can deliberate on some of these things. And if PDS actually did what they were not supposed to do, and they did it, I think that fraud is enough grounds to terminate the whole process.
All right. So essentially, I'm saying we should wait for the
exactly. I don't think we should be in a hurry to terminate
the agreement.
Watch those investigations very carefully, because what Richard is saying is very true. There are so many issues that raise questions. You read it about how this whole process has gone down. I understand. You see, the Qatar people are reinsured, not the insurance. The insurers were done well. It's a local company, which of course did not really have the retention capacity. So they had to pass most of the risk to our courts in Qatar. Now,
and they are the ones who first raised the issue that they suspect what is good. There's something wrong.
And
with
I have it on reliable
done
information that our courts sent in cancellation of notice to Donwell on the 31st of July. Now, if that thing, if the reinsurance, the guarantee that was being reinsured was not valid in the first place, why would you be cancelling it?
Exactly.
That's interesting. Let me come to you on the issue of due diligence and what you make of this issue.
Good evening, and good evening to your chairs viewers. To me, in the first place, the government has erred.
Okay.
In the sense that, I mean, look at the ECG, a very huge company like this. They wanted to hand it over to another entity without doing due diligence to even find out whether the capital that they are bringing in are genuine or not. And I mean, to the surprise, you just issue a statement that you suspended the deal for the meantime, and they should give you 30 days to do an investigation, and let's wait after that 30 days before you take a decision. I think this is wrong. By this time, people should be interdicted. You understand? Those who were involved in the whole process should be interdicted. The kind of issue that we are hearing, I mean, it's not easy. You understand? It's basically because people, the PDS guys, what I have heard, and I've spoken to people within authority, and they've confirmed to me that, I mean, because they have refused to pay kickback to some key government officials, that's what has resulted into this.
And this is something you can. This is something you can. The issue of kickbacks.
The conspiracy theory is actually going round.
Exactly.
What is it?
That they've actually failed to pay what they're supposed to pay back from people. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, you were able to verify that.
Yeah, because I mean, come to think of it, that you are giving electricity company of Ghana to a private entity to manage, and you didn't bother to even do due diligence, and you just hand over the company to them to handle, and within 3, 4, 5 months, you've come to say, hey, look, you've detected some anomalies, and you are not even telling us what the anomalies are, and you've gone ahead and say you are suspending their operations. I mean, it's basically...
Well, this was a bidding process where the
exactly,
biggest competitor was disqualified.
Yeah, you use so many elimination tactics to even take off so many companies. Yeah. You understand? Because you have a company in mind that you wanted to give to. So you use elimination tactics to even eliminate so many, over 6 or so, 5 or so, 6 companies who also bidded for the same contract.
But that changed when it was moved from 80% to 8. You know, it was supposed initially it was 80% and then 20.
Yes.
And then change of government now became 49 to 51%, which many of the big players gave as the reason why they were pulling out of the process.
Exactly. But Duke, do we even need somebody to even manage our company for us? Are we not capable of doing our own thing ourselves? Do we even need the Compact 2 money? Look at what happened within let me relate to what happened within the banking sector. I mean, we were able to raise almost like 12 billion Ghana cedis to revamp the sector. We can also put the same thing on special purpose vehicle to raise money for ECG, give them terms to run and pay back the money.
So for you shouldn't have been gone there in the first place.
You understand? And look at the kind of things that we are experiencing now. And if we don't take time, there's another judgment debt looming.
Yeah.
And we, of course, we're going to use the taxpayers' money to do that. It's rather unfortunate.
Yeah, we will take a break here. Obviously, after the 30 days, we're expecting information on what would transpire. That is the conclusion that will be reached by government regarding whether ECG is going to continue with its takeover of PDS, or PDS will come back, or how this matter is going to end. But for now, though, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll delve into the other issues up for discussion right here on Press Conference in this edition. Welcome back from that break. I am still in the studio with Toma, Elorm, and Richard. Just gone by, we're discussing the suspension of the Power Distribution Services agreement as the concessionaire for distribution of power in the country under the Millennium Challenge Compact 2. But for now, though, we'll move to the matter concerning the mid-year budget review, which was presented on the 29th of July, the Monday just gone past, by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Take-or-pay agreement, which he attributed as the major cause of the issues in the energy sector. Some policy measures were announced. That is an upward adjustment of the energy sector levies. The luxury vehicle tax was also repealed. Communication service tax from 6% to 9%. The GDP growth targets revised downwards from 7.6 to 7.1. So these are some of the, main or the highlights of what was presented there. But we will take excerpts of his presentation on the floor of Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the significant progress we have made so far, the serious challenges we are facing in the energy sector pose grave financial risks to the whole economy. At the heart of these challenges are the obnoxious take-or-pay contracts signed by the NDC, which obligate us to pay for capacity we do not need. Currently, according to the Energy Commission, our installed capacity of over 5,000 megawatts is almost double our peak demand of around 2,700 megawatts. Notably, 2,300 megawatts of the installed capacity has been contracted on the take-or-pay basis. This means that we are contractual, Mr. Speaker, obliged to throw away money for this excess capacity which we do not consume. This has resulted in us paying over $500 million of over 2.5 billion annually for power generation capacity that we do not need. Similarly, for gas, Ghana has contracted for around 750 million scraps per day by 2023. This is even after this government terminated 2 other LNG contracts in 2017. Current demand is around 250 million scraps per day, and this is projected to rise to between 450 and 550 million scraps per day by 2023.
6.37 billion Ghana cedis in by way of request for additional money or supplementary estimates, which came with the review. But that's Finance Minister explaining one of the thorny issues that came up: take or pay and take and pay. What's the difference? Hello.
Well, before I delve into that, I just want to make a quick comment on the PDS. What I want to say is, what I want to say is, government should not share the outcome of the investigation. It should make it public so that we'll all be aware of exactly what has actually gone on. That's my last point I wanted to make. Now, with the issue of the mid-year review budget, with regards to the energy sector, we realized that the energy sector levy was increased from 6% to 9%. With the issue that has to do with take or pay.
Communication service tax, 6 to 9.
No, okay, sorry, the communication tax, 6 to 9. Sorry. The take or pay just has to do with we have independent power producers.
Yeah.
Normally, they produce the power. Governments will, they produce the power in excess. Whatever the government needs, governments take that one and pay, and they still have the excess.
Okay.
So anytime government needs, like something like a backup. But what the new policy is now coming to tell us is, government will just take whatever it needs, and the excess.
So you have on your screen highlights of the media budget review. Yes. Some of the, 10 key things that as put together by citybusinessnews.com. You have the GDP growth revised from 7.1, revenue fell by 4.2 billion, government to spend additional 6.37 billion. And these are the highlights. Yes.
Yes. So with regards to the highlights that you just said, the mid-year review budget, the finance minister just went there with 2 key things: to revise its macroeconomic targets and also to look for
more money,
ways of getting more revenue. And I think it doesn't help. You understand? When you look at our revenue for the first 6 months, it was 50% below target. And right now, the kind of measures that is bringing in, to me, is unsatisfactory. That we are going to sell our electromagnetic spectrum to raise money. We are increasing the communication tax and also the energy sector levies. It doesn't help. And also, we are also expecting...
And we're monetizing royalties. Mining royalties.
Yes, mining royalties. And also expecting $500 million approval from World Bank. These are cosmetic way of trying to generate revenue. Let's be more realistic. Otherwise, we will not grow as a country.
What will be the realistic way of raising
Yes, of course. That's what I'm saying. That, look, even when you look at their own flagship program, the 1D1F, how much money have they allocated for it within this mid-year review budget? 0. You understand? Why we don't move from... We've not moved to production. Master, we are dead. The country will not move forward. Nothing will happen. You understand? When we have these factories, let's say we have almost 50 factories up and running. First of all, it's going to unemployment is going to reduce. We're going to expand our businesses. More people are going to pay taxes. Yes. And so you need the taxes to run your economy. If you don't support industries, how do you expect them to grow, expand, so that you employ more people, get your expected revenue to run your economy? It will not happen. You understand? So to me, they should. Of course, the finance minister went to parliament to satisfy its, legal obligation. You understand? But to me, they should find a more realistic way of trying to raise revenue. How long will we continue selling our assets to support our economic activity?
Yeah. So for you, that's unsustainable.
It's unsustainable.
Let me come to Richard. Well, your own takeaways: energy sector revenue reviewed downwards, and the measures to shore up the revenue.
Well, I think that first of all, what scares me most in the media review is the amount of money we were requesting to pay debt. So we say Ken Oforiatta says he needs an additional 6.37 billion cedis. And it would interest you to know that out of this amount that he needs, when you do the computation or you do the analysis, more than 6.1 billion would be used to pay one debt or the other. And let me break it down. So when we spoke, we talked about the take-or-pay agreement that we have. We need 5.1 billion to clear that debt. And so when you look at the reviewed expenditure estimate, we need 5.1 billion. So that one is also there. And then also on the overall review of the total expenditure, we have interest payment going up by more than 900 million.
Oh.
900 million cedis. So when you add it to the 5.1, we are looking about we're talking about something in the range of 6.17 thereabout billion cedis just to pay that. So essentially, what the finance minister went to do in Parliament was to ask for money to go and pay debt. For me, that's what I see. And I would want to also, I mean, I don't know if they're watching, but if they are watching, we need to have some of these breakdowns. So you are saying that the 5.1 billion in terms of the take-or-pay agreement, we are supposed to know, is this something that came up only this year or last year is inclusive? And I want to believe last year is inclusive because the minister, when he was speaking, made mention of the fact that they didn't factor the take-or-pay agreement into the 2019 budget. That 5.1 billion, that's what I heard him say. I stand to be corrected. And I would want to know, why would you not do that? And we should also bear in mind that,
because you remember at a point in time, some of these agreements under Boakye Jackson as energy minister, some of these, about 13 of them, came to answer a question in Parliament and said they had been terminated and others were being looked at. So probably that could be the reason why I didn't get into
So Duke, as at the last time the budget was being prepared, that was somewhere, was being presented, the 2019, I think it was presented somewhere in November. And as at October, the media had reported that government had reviewed some of these contracts. And it is going to prevent the country from paying in excess of 500 million cedis, $500 million every year for excess power. So we already knew this kind of arrangement was already in place. So why would we prepare a budget and not include it? Now we are having to ask for more money to clear some of these things. And I think that we talked about budget, they say budget rigidities, meaning that things that prevent us from spending on goods and services or capital expenditure. And for me, what I say with this particular government, they have a lot of programs that prevents them from spending on some of these capital expenditure. Yes, I mean, these are fine ideas and all those things. But what I see,
social investment.
What I see is, before you plan, you should know how much money you're going to raise. So if occasionally we continue to plan over and over our budget, some of these things will happen. And you're going to have revenue not matching up because you've not boosted your revenue collection process in a way that would generate enough money to prosecute these programs. But then we have come up with the programs anyway. You have programs like Free SHS, One District, One Factory, and these things will bear fruit. No two ways about it. But what you have to know is they will take time. And government knowing, for me, I think that the finance minister should apologize to Ghanaians. One, because when you came to power, you knew some of these things, and we still went ahead to review so-called nuisance taxes.
Okay.
Do you get it? And when we did that, now we came back a year later. We came back to introduce taxes on luxury vehicle and some other funny taxes that you will not understand, because revenue was underperforming. So if you knew you have a lot of programs and you are going to need more money, I think that I don't want to say the economy was run on a campaign platform. I don't want to say that. But when you look at the campaign promises they made, the nuisance taxes, they took them off. And now we are seeing some of these taxes, and then we are seeing increase in taxes. So what's the essence of you removing the taxes in the first place? If you knew you're not going to need the money, why did you take them off?
Exactly.
And now you take them off, now you're struggling to raise money, and then you come back, you want to blame the previous government. Look, what happened from change? Is it shifting focus from taxation to production? Are we shifting focus to production again or taxation again? Is that what we are doing? And look, let me tell you, all the tax measures the minister introduced, the 6.37 from 6% to 9%, the CST and then the
20%
SLI and all those things. When you look at the differences in terms of revenue is going to raise, it's not even up to 400 million. Telling you that there's still a huge revenue shortfall. Government has kept its revenue target same. And there's every indication that we are not going to miss it. Meanwhile, expenditure is going to go up because first half of the year, expenditure has gone up already. And already we are asking for more money to go and spend. So, and we are looking into an election year.
That's why your fiscal deficit has gone up to 4.5.
And you see, even the fiscal deficit, I mean, sometimes we want to forgive this government for omitting the banking sector cleanup. But if we are to include the banking sector cleanup,
to really go, but have the targets not been ambitious?
Well, I think that
in terms of, especially with the GDP growth figures, have they not been too ambitious?
No,
that government
so the thing about GDP growth, most of the time, because it's driven by the hydrocarbons, the oil and gas. I mean, you can forgive them. But when it comes to the real sector of the economy, where people work and they're supposed to, or people are supposed to get employment and be paying their school fees and all that, how much is that growth as compared to the oil and gas sector? That's where the problem is. We need to make growth reflective of the general economy for people to get employment and people to get their daily bread. That's what matters. Oil and gas does not employ a lot of people. I mean, at most maybe 10,000, or if you want to even be generous, 100,000 by extension. But how many Ghanaians benefit from that sector?
So for you, this is, in terms of the policy prescriptions, it may not be able to match up to the revenue that we want.
Of course.
The country
so
needs
I
to
think
expect.
that we need to be realistic. Yes, our development is lagging behind. But what we need to do is to be realistic and not be introducing more policies that will put pressure on the budget. Because when it happens, you're going to have NAPCO recruits going on strike. You're going to have teachers and everybody going on strike because you don't have money to pay them. And you're going to borrow more to pay them. And when you borrow more, already interest payment is more than, I think, twice what we spend on capital expenditure. So why would we do this to ourselves?
I come to Toma now.
Well, Richard and Elorm have said it all. Look, we're just trying to do too much in terms of expenditure, all right? But not enough of things that will expand the economy, all right? The MPP government in the past has always done better at expanding the size of the economy than this social intervention policy, which is more of an NDC thing. But this government is trying to do both, all right? And we're not raising the money. Now, when it comes to taxes, now let's look at this very carefully. Just in April, we reduced the benchmark values by 50%, which we know translates into lower actual amounts of money being paid for imports. Now, please, Jude, tell me, since April, what prices have come down on imported goods? All that has happened is that the importers themselves and their agents are making wider margins. All right? Okay? Now, meanwhile, it is costing, if you look at the projections for this year, that is costing government 1 billion Ghana cedis in revenues.
The benchmark value.
The benchmark, yeah, well, we've reduced our target for international trade revenues from duties by 1 billion from the 2019 budget. It's been cut by 1 billion, right? That's because we already had a large shortfall during the first 6 months, and government has recognized it's not really going to improve in the second half of the year, which means that we are forgoing that 1 billion in order for certain people, importers and their cohorts, to increase their profit margin, because we are not feeling any positive impacts on it. All right. Now, part of the way to make up for this is you've increased communication service tax, you've increased energy levies, which affects all of us, and which affects business costs, which means it's making us less competitive, and it's making households, their budgets a bit tighter. All right. Now, is that really the right way to go? Now, I want to talk about the energy, about the take or pay. The emphasis, again, it does give us a problem, but the emphasis on it during the half-year budget was more to justify the increase in energy levy than any other thing. This take or pay contracts have been there for quite some time. Let's be honest, the time we did those take or pay contracts, what choice did we have? ECG, the way our energy sector is, ECG is the only off-taker, is the only institution to actually buy the energy from the IPPs. All right? So if you don't put a take or pay clause in it, when an IPP is setting up.
But why did we have to sign up so many of them?
That is the problem.
Why did we have to sign up?
We were desperate. We were desperate. That really was a mistake. We should have
our failure
actually
to plan for the
done
future.
our calculations.
That's what got
better.
us into this.
We should have done our
situation.
calculations. So the problem was not the idea of IP of take or pay, but the number, the capacity we added on with the take or pay. That was the problem, and it is a problem. How we're going to get around it, I really don't know. Because when you sign the take or pay contract with an IPP, I don't say I'm going to turn it into a take and pay contract. If the IPP has more capacity than government needs.
That can be done in the sense that
without avoiding judgment debt.
Yes, when you look at the new IPPs, the new ones, not the old ones.
Yes.
You know, the old ones, let's say they've gone for loans to set up their plant and stuff like that and produce, and they've started producing electricity for us. Yeah. So of course, when you look at, but now they've amortized their debt or whatever. You understand? So with the new ones, they have just gone for loans.
Yes, who are just about to set up. Yes.
Those who are,
so for the new ones, we can have a conversation with
them.
You can restructure the agreement.
I
think it's more about moral suasion in this case because, and for me, I think that we need to be ambitious. So when the government says we are going to have a factory in every district, are we not going to need power to run some of these things? Yes, we are looking at long term, all right, but we cannot say these are power we don't need. We've always said our problem may end up running your economy into problems. I'm not saying it's 2.5 billion annually for power that we don't use. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying that sometimes we need to be forward-looking. We need to be forward-thinking. And yes, power, we don't need to, like Toma was saying, it's the bulk, the number. But I think if we had done some calculation and given some allowance, saying that, okay, because we want to grow industry, let's say double the size of industry in the next 5 years, we can commit some of these things. And look, once we lock some of these IPPs, and they'll make sure that we double up when it comes to our industrialization. So by the time the industries are up, power is available. We don't need the industries to come before we go and look for power. In fact, the power could be a motivating factor
for the industry
drive
to come
the industry to come in.
Knowing that power
but it's going to cost us.
It will cost us.
If we cancel, we will be paying judgment debt.
It's going to cost us
gradually.
So why don't you do it gradually? I mean,
we'll take some messages. We'll take some messages here, and we will come back to the last topic, but we may have some wrapping up comments. Just 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Okay. The other thing is this. I have worries about the statistics we are being given at the media review, and in fact, even some coming from the Bank of Ghana. When I did the maths, we understand that our public debt to GDP ratio now is 59.something%. But if you do the calculations based on the data provided by the Bank of Ghana, it's actually about 61%. That is based on projections for GDP, for where our GDP will be end of 2019. That was based on a 7.6% growth rate. Now, to get your 59% growth rate we are talking about, the GDP would have to grow by 14% this year to arrive at a end of year GDP to debt ratio of below 60%, as government is claiming.
So there's a discrepancy.
There's a discrepancy there. And I'm hearing from somebody that it's because they used nominal GDP growth rather than really GDP growth, and that amounts to shifting the goalpost. It's as simple as that. That's about shifting the goalpost quite close to the corner flag. That is going to go. So I've said it, but we need to be very careful about the data we are being. I wanted to make sure we are being given the right data.
Okay, so we will take some messages here. This one from Bafo and Spintex. He says, "Can anyone explain to us the meaning of take or pay and take and pay?" I think that explanation was done briefly. So take and pay is take or pay is you pay for it whether you take the power or not. Yes, and then take and pay is you pay
what you take,
or pay as you go, or pay as you go. Pay as simple as that. Bafo. This one from Albert Ofori Mankesim says, surprisingly, it's only in Ghana that government agencies and functionaries involved in a huge energy agreement issue of this nature, international dimension, decides to investigate itself. The outcome is obvious, only that we don't want them to waste more of our scarce resources. So you think that the investigation is not necessary. This one from Koshi Badohu Aivo from Denu Junction says the condition President's Parliament approved was a bank guarantee. Because PDS doesn't have the bank account to support the request, the condition was changed to insurance guarantee by government on the blind side of Parliament. In fact, PDS didn't have the capacity and disposition to manage ECG, but it was awarded a contract to satisfy a populist ego of local content when the Ghanaian participation was naively moved to 51%. So that's what you think. This one from Bogali in Hashim says, another job for the boys' concession, a whole ECG. I'm worried as a Ghanaian. Maximus Aurelius from Koforidua says, the leadership of this country over the years has never ceased to amaze me. How we resolve issues or implement programs over the years has remained the same problem with its inherent issues. What at all is wrong with us? Because it seems we cannot handle, implement, or do anything right. You visit other parts of the world and you realize that they implement programs or interventions without a sweat, but ours is always fraught with problems. What at all is our problem? It hurts, you know. On that note, we'll take a break. You're welcome back. This is Press Conference right here on City TV. I still have in studio my guests, Toma, Elorm, and Richard. The last issue for discussion has got to do with the updates that have come with regards to the Takrady kidnapped girls. It's been months. And on Friday evening, news broke that the police, as part of their investigations, had gone to pay a visit to the residence of the main suspect who's in custody, Samuel Odotuk Wills. And after that, this statement was released, and we will take excerpts of the statement. It says, as part of investigations into the 3 Takrady kidnapped girls, the Criminal Investigations Department and the Western Regional Command earlier this evening, August 2nd, 2019, conducted an operation at Kansarodo, a suburb of Takrady. During the operation, which took place at 7 p.m., some human remains were retrieved from a septic tank at an uncompleted building. The building was previously occupied by convict Samuel Odotuk Wills, who was one of the accused persons standing trial for allegedly kidnapping the 3 Takrady girls. The discovered human parts will be sent to the Forensic Science Laboratory of the Ghana Police Service for analysis and further investigation. Signed, Ms. Juliano, being Deputy Superintendent of Police. So that's the statement from the police. I begin with you, Toma. Some say that even the way it was reported in the media, the conclusion that probably these ladies, for want of a better word, these girls are no more, when the police have said that they are going to conduct forensics.
Okay, let me say how I think this thing should be done. Please, with avoidance of doubt, I have been asked by City TV not to make these statements on air. So please, they are completely removed from what I'm about to say. They have no part in it. This is me talking. This is just Toma.
Disclaimer.
In Nigeria, where this guy is from, this is how the Nigerian police will handle it. They will torture him into telling the truth about what has happened to the girls. Simple. Simple, boom, boom, simple. It is unethical, it is illegal, but it will deliver the results we are looking for. Simple. I wonder why we are not willing to do that here, because at the end of the day, let's put everything aside. It now boils down to the comfort of one guy who we know is a kidnapper, and the comfort of 3 people who are totally innocent and their families. I think the good of the many is more important than the good of the few. I mean, it is logical. Yeah. So I think we should put our ethics and legalities and morals aside and do what will give us the results we need. In Nigeria, I'm sorry to say, I'm from there. This is how we'll handle this case.
Wow. Hello.
Look, I'm quite surprised. I'm quite surprised in the sense that, I mean, if the CID boss is still at post, she should be fired by now. I mean, why am I saying so? I'm saying so in correlation with the kind of hope that they give us. Yeah. That, oh, the girls are safe, they know where they are, blah, 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 blah. So many jargons and stuff like that. And to my amazement, that they could issue this statement to tell us that they've gone to Takrady together with the kidnapper, and we've gone to see some human parts and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. They are taking it to their forensic department for it to be examined. I'm so surprised. She shouldn't be. Yeah, because
the police need to confirm. Actually, they've even spoken about.
Yes,
taking DNA traces and all that. Because the fact that they found human parts does not necessarily mean it could be that of the girls.
Exactly, but you're not getting the import of what I'm saying. I'm saying this with regards to the kind of assurance that the police give us.
Yeah.
You know, I think the people are not advising our president very well. Seriously speaking, I'm so disappointed in the police administration, especially with regards to the CID department. That, I mean, for almost close to a year now, I mean, they can't even trace they can't even know where the girls are until recently that the kidnapper could take them to where they've been murdered and their bodies will be retrieved from.
Allegedly. So for me,
okay, you continue. You finish.
Do you understand? So I'm quite disappointed. They shouldn't even be at post.
Why did it even take long to go and search that place?
Yes, to go there.
Exactly.
So for me, I think we are here, especially regarding where the news that broke that these were the remains of the girls, and I think that sometimes we, the media, we need to take certain responsibility. You know, I think sometime this year, the owner of Leicester City,
yes,
he died in a helicopter crash. People saw him board the helicopter, saw the helicopter crash, and I can tell you for a fact, I was monitoring the news and nobody or no media house confirmed the guy dead. Well, 10, 15 hours when they've seen the helicopter crash, nobody was mentioning that the guy had died. All they said was they saw him board the helicopter. You see how they were trying to be responsible? They didn't want to pronounce because they know some of these things could be very dicey. But here's the case that we saw skulls and bones and everything that it was, and then quickly pronounced that these are the remains of the girls. And I think that when we do that, first of all, what we need to do as media houses, and I'm not trying to name and shame, but I think that sometimes we need to have sympathy or be aware of people's sensibilities. Yeah. We are talking about families here. And what if they are not even dead? For all you know, the operation that the police even went on, they never told the family. And then all of a sudden you read on the news that they found the remains. Yeah. And for you to be able to conclude, for you to even
but the police administration itself has issued a statement in that regard.
No, what they said.
The statement said that they are going to.
Yes, of course.
They are going to do forensic.
So they hold on to the statement.
No, hold on. No, at that time the news had broke on social media.
Yes, so they could have hold on. You understand my point? And micromanage the whole thing.
See, the police were forced to respond, to react.
Yes. In that case, the
statement was
totally wrong.
Yes. They rushed in issuing the statement.
I think
that this was happened. I'm saying you two from let's torture these guys so they say the truth that we get the girl.
As for that, anyway.
So let me wrap up. I think that first of all, we need to be circumspect as media houses. We need to be. We don't need to break. Look, the rush to break news does not help anybody. First of all, we are talking about people here. We are talking about families here, and some of these things they don't need to hear.
You need not to blame the journalists.
No, I'm not blaming journalists. I'm not.
Nobody's. What I'm saying is, if the police. No, when the police issued a statement, did they even bother, having an engagement with the family before issuing that particular statement?
Let's assume that admitting. We found out that there was some form of engagement in that regard because the police have now requested for DNA and
because that's a process
and things like that.
Before you're able
so that's what I'm saying, that you shouldn't have even gone ahead to issue that statement. You could have done all these things. All these things before.
No, the police. No, at that point.
Why are you in rush?
No, I'm saying
because
at that point
because the news already broke on.
So the public is not directing you as to what to do.
No, you see, at that point, the point is they did the digging and whatever, and they full glove the public. And once they knew that's where the guy was, so people put one and one together, and then they quickly started, and then police had to respond. Perhaps you can say the police should have managed the situation.
Yeah, they could have managed it for
which is essentially the point. But not to cut you, but we may have to wrap up here. This is an issue that would keep raging. It's just developing. I'm sure in the coming days, everything we need to know about this, especially with the forensic audit
I've told
and
you
other
what
matters.
I've told you what we need to get to the bottom of the issue.
Thomas' prescription.
I support, I attach myself to what Thomas said.
Yes.
I have my own reservations about that. Just a couple of messages, just about one,
So the rights
two.
of that guy
This
is
one
more
says,
important than the rights of
Evans
the
from
three
Tema
kidnapped
says, "Oh Ghana, from the minister, excess power we do not need. Yet Valco is in need of power. Are we serious at all? Even those of you in the studio are all behaving like the people in Kuma's days. We need the power now. We need the power later. Will always be us." This one's from Anamu in Gambaga. Says, "It is amazing how we are not planning. Have we thought about the number of communities that are not connected to the national grid? Are we saying in the next 2 to 5 years, because of the factories, besides the factories, there's going to be a total blockade to extending lights to rural areas? Give me a break." That is from Anamu in Gambaga. A couple of other messages. This one from Samin in Sawem says, "The human remains found brouhaha is just a political stunt to divert attention." Well, that's what you think. But this is press conference. My name is Duke Mensah Opoku. In studio, I had Toma Imihere, editor of Gold Street Business, Elorm Desewu, editor, Economy Times, and Annerquaye, Abbey, editor, citybusinessunit.com. And to you at home for doing the watching, keep watching City TV. Same time next week, we'll be right back on this channel.